Hello, and welcome back to Getting Your Shit Together, the podcast where we break down financial and real estate news in a way that makes sense without the jargon. I am Neil Joseph, and always am joined by my co host, Jerome.
Hey, Neil. Today's topic is something a lot of homeowners may have heard of, but will not necessarily fully understand. Notices of security interest. If you've ever been in the middle of refinancing or selling your home and suddenly found out that there is an unexpected hiccup, this might be the reason.
Yeah, for sure. Not a very common topic. So let's start with the basics. A notice of security interest is a legal notice that can be placed on the title of your property. Essentially, it is a claim made by someone, usually a contractor or a service provider, who hasn't been fully paid for the work done on your home. It is their way of securing payment by attaching a legal hold on your property's title.
So think of it as someone saying, you still owe me money, and I'm going to make sure I get it before you sell or refinance this house. Now, while it might sound fair from the perspective of the potential contractor, these notices often create big problems for homeowners, especially those who didn't realize they were even on there.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that's why this issue has been such a thorn in the side for a lot of people. You might be planning to renew your mortgage, tap into your home's equity by means of a refinance, or even sell your property. But suddenly you're hit with a surprise. There is a notice of security interest on your title, and that is stopping you in your tracks.
Imagine this. You're ready to move forward and refinance or sell your home, and all your ducks are in a row. You've signed everything at the lenders and done all the stuff at the lawyers. But then you find out there's a hold on your title. You can't move forward until it's dealt with. It's like planning the perfect vacation, but the airline tells you last minute, sorry, you're grounded until we get this sorted.
Yeah, not fun.
No.
And that's the kind of last minute surprise anyone wants.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who have experienced this, we get it. It is frustrating, and it may feel like it's unfair to you. But these notices were supposed to ensure contractors got paid, but often they left homeowners in the dark, scrambling to figure out what went wrong.
So today, we're talking about the good news. The Ontario government has stepped in and made some changes on how these notices of security interest can be placed on a title. We're going to explain why these changes are a big deal and how they'll positively impact homeowners like you.
Okay, but first, let us give some context. These notices were originally put in place to protect contractors and other service providers who might not get paid for the work they did on the home. The idea was, if they didn't get their money, they could file a notice of security interest against the property, essentially saying, I am owed this money, and until I get it, you cannot sell or refinance without paying me first.
In theory, that really makes sense, right? You want to make sure that the people who worked on your home are getting what they're owed. But the execution of this process left a lot to be desired. Many homeowners found out about these notices only at the worst possible time, when they were right in the middle of their major financial transaction. And it causes delays, frustration, and additional costs. One of the major players in these nuisance notices were hot water heater and furnace and AC companies, placing these notices of security interest on properties without the owner's knowledge.
And maybe being quite sneaky about it, right? Selling their goods, but not really telling the homeowners what the implications were.
Yes.
And that's why the Ontario government has stepped in with new regulations. Effective 6th June 2024, there is a ban on registration of notice of security interest for consumer goods like water heater, air conditioner, furnaces, etc. These new rules make sure homeowners are better protected, and more importantly, that there is more transparency around when and why a notice of security interest can be placed on your title. Now, these notices cannot just show up like an uninvited guest at your dinner party.
Thank goodness. So here's also the good news. Under the new policy, there's better oversight, and homeowners will be notified properly if a notice of security interest is added to their title. So you'll end up with more control and fewer surprises when it comes to refinancing, selling, or renewing your mortgage.
And if you're thinking, well, great, who does this benefit? Well, the answer is you, homeowners. This change puts the power back in your hands. No more unexpected delays because a notice you weren't aware of. You will now have clearer pathways to resolve any disputes, and the process for removing these notices has been simplified.
And that is a huge win. Homeowners can now rest a little easier knowing they won't get stuck in a long legal back and forth just because of some paperwork they weren't aware of. And it's not just about refinancing or selling. This applies to mortgage renewals too. You don't want to be held up just because someone has placed a claim on your title.
Oh, if you have ever felt like you were trapped by a system you didn't fully understand, know that the new rules are here to help. If there is a notice of security interest on your title, you now have more options to dispute it or resolve it faster. And that is real progress.
Exactly. So just take a breath. These changes are designed to help make homeownership a little less stressful and to protect you from unnecessary roadblocks. Of course, if you ever find yourself dealing with title issues, we're here to help you navigate the process.
And remember, if you've got any questions about how this might impact your mortgage or plans to sell, don't hesitate to reach out. A mortgage professional like myself or Jerome or real estate lawyer can guide you through the process and help make sure everything is in order. In fact, I would recommend anybody who has had their home renovated or have put in new appliances like a water heater, furnace, or air conditioner in the years past to check if such a notice of interest has been put on title. And you could plan to get it removed next time you undertake a property related transaction. There are some fees involved, and so it's better to combine with the planned transactions such as a refinance.
That's it. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Getting Your Shit Together. We hope today's chat has helped clarify some of the recent changes and why they should matter to you. So we'll catch you next time. And as always, keep your title clean and your surprises minimal.
Take care, everyone. Welcome to the second half of Getting Your Shit Together. I'm Neil, and as always, I've got my co-host Jerome here with me. We will dig into a big news for first-time homebuyers, big enough that it's making waves in the mortgage world. Jerome, how excited are you to finally have a reason to talk about something other than your classic cars?
Oh, Neil, I'm pumped. But of course, I still love my classic cars. Today, we're talking about the federal government making mortgages fun. Because who doesn't love 30 years of debt?
Well, fun might be a stretch, but yes, there are two new changes aimed at helping first-time homebuyers get into the market. We have got the new 1.5 million purchase price limit for insured mortgages. And they're also allowing 30-year amortization for first-time home buyers. Both of these changes are effective from 15th of December 2024. And so if you want to take advantage of these options, then your mortgage application needs to be submitted after this date. Realistically speaking, you can take advantage of these options only if your purchase is closing maybe a couple of weeks after the 15th of December. Of course, due to the administrative work involved in getting a mortgage approved and funded and whatnot. So let's get into it. There is quite a lot to unpack.
And let's face it, if you are a first-time home buyer in Toronto, you're probably already thinking, wait, how am I supposed to afford anything here? Don't worry, we've got your back, or at least we'll try.
Okay, so let's kick things off with the new limit of 1.5 million purchase for insured mortgages. So, for folks who don't know, before this change, if you were looking to buy a property over $1 million, you needed at least 20% down payment. Now, first-time homebuyers can go up to 1.5 million with less than that, as long as they get mortgage default insurance.
Yes, which is great. If you've been feeling like $999,999 was just too cheap for your taste, now you can bump your budget up, and still put down, let's say, 10%. I mean, who doesn't love the idea of a slightly smaller down payment on a much bigger mortgage payment? It's like getting a bigger slice of cake and then eating it for 30 years.
Wow, 30 years. Exactly. Yeah. But in all seriousness, this change is mainly going to help buyers who already have a higher income, say about $205,000 and more, plus a down payment of more than $75,000. It's still not easy, but it opens up more options for what is probably a small section of prospective buyers. Let's review this with a range of scenarios, existing as well as soon to be available ones, that facilitate the purchase of property for, say, 1.5 million. As you can see, one would need a household income of $300,000 and a down payment of at least $125,000 in order to purchase a 1.5 million property using an insured mortgage. At the lower end of the income range, one would need a household income of $222,000 and $300,000 of down payment to make such a purchase, of course, using a conventional mortgage, since they would have 20% down with $300,000. So it's quite a large range depending on how much income and down payment available. Mind you, closing cost is in addition to these stated down payment figures. It is not easy and won't be the case for a vast majority of prospective homebuyers.
Right. So if your household income is up there and you've got some cash saved up, it's not a bad opportunity to get into the market. But you've got to plan smartly. Otherwise, you might find yourself eating ramen noodles for a while. Just look at the interest costs over that 5-year period.
And that's where a mortgage broker comes in. We, like Jerome and I, can help you figure out what's feasible based on your income and down payment. Reach out if you would like a personalized chart of options that you can use for your purchase. Okay, moving on, let's talk about the 30-year amortization rule. That's another second big change, and it's effective December 15th, 2024. Jerome, what do you think about this option?
Well, Neil, 30 years is a long time, but it does help reduce those monthly payments at the onset. So if you've been sweating the income requirement a little bit, this could help make it easier to qualify. It's like stretching a rubber band. Just, don't let it snap back.
Well put. Let's break it down with another example. So, if you're looking at an average price property in the Greater Toronto area, which is about $1,068,700 in the month of September, and you want to go for a 30-year option, your household income requirement drops by about $13,750 as compared to opting for a 25-year amortization. So that's a relief in order to get into your new home.
So for anyone who's been counting every penny and thinking, how on earth am I supposed to show that much income? This might be the breathing room that you need. But remember, stretching it out to the 30 years means that you're in it for the long haul, folks. You'll end up paying more interest over the long run if you stay for the full 30 years. So keep that in mind when you're making these forever home plans.
Okay. All right. So we've got these two changes, the higher price limit and the longer amortization. The big question that remains is, how does this really make a difference for first-time buyers?
You know, it actually can, Neil, especially if you're in a high-priced market like either Toronto or Vancouver. With a 30-year amortization or a 30-year option, you could buy a pricier home for the same monthly payments as before, just with a bit more down payment. It's like buying an extra room for your houseplants or, you know, your kids if you prefer them.
Exactly. But there are still some challenges. Like in the case of new build, builders often require 20% down, and the new construction home tend to be a bit more expensive than the resale ones. So I do not know how much it's going to benefit in the new construction space.
Plus, even though the government is trying to level that playing field, existing homeowners with equity still have the upper hand in the resale market. They can potentially throw down bigger down payments and outbid first time buyers. It's like showing up to a water fight with a squirt gun while the other team has a fire hose.
Yeah. And this policy does not address supply issues, which means demand will remain still high. Stretching payments for 5 more years doesn't build more homes. It just means you have the ability to borrow more and keep paying more for the home.
Exactly. If you're using this to your advantage, remember that you're signing up for that longer commitment. 30 years of mortgage payments can feel like a lifetime. And in fact, for most people, it very much is. You don't want to feel like you're handcuffed to your house, especially if this means missing out on, say, vacations or saving for retirement, or even literally just enjoying life.
Yeah. So, Jerome, what is your advice to our listeners?
If you're really serious about getting into the market, take advantage of these changes while they're here. But be smart about it. Don't just jump in because it's the shiny new option. Sit down with a mortgage broker, think Neil and me, and figure out what your long-term goals are. Think about not just what you can afford right now, but what's sustainable over the next 10 years. Review the blog posts that we have in the show notes and look closely at what options could cost you just in the first 5 years of those mortgage payments.
Yeah. These new rules can give first-time home buyers a bit more flexibility. But it's important to plan ahead and know what you're getting into. And hey, if you do it right, you will look back in 10 to 15 years and be glad about the smart choice you made.
That's right, because who wants to be that person still paying off their mortgage when they're 75? Not me. Definitely not you. Neil?
Never. I wouldn't want it for anybody.
No.
Well, thanks for tuning in, everyone. If you've got questions or need help figuring out your options, give us a shout. We would be happy to help.
And remember, if you're struggling with some of the mortgage math, just think of it as fitness for your brain, except, with way more numbers.
See you all next time.